welcome to another edition of Stories of the Dark on your Sunday night. I am Glen Clark, and tonight we're going to be talking about shadow people. Have you ever seen a shadow person or know anybody that has? Feel free to drop me a line on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or even comment on the comments below the video that you'll see that'll show up on YouTube. Also have a couple of more websites I use now. I now use PodOMatic, Pinecast, and SoundCloud. So go have a look at those. I've got several episodes up right now. Get things started off tonight. Thought I'd share a couple of news stories for you. This one comes from CNN. It says $18 million shows up in boxes of bananas donated to Texas prison. That ought to be interesting. It says this shipment of bananas donated to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice was ripe for contraband. I would think so. Sometimes life gives you lemons, sometimes it gives you bananas, and sometimes it gives you something you'd never expect. Posted the department on Facebook. On Friday, department officers went to pick up the 2 pallets of donated fruit and quickly discovered something off about the weight of the boxes. One of the sergeants just noticed one of the boxes didn't seem quite right. Jeremy Diesel, department spokesman, told CNN affiliate KTRC. He looked a little further, removed that box off one of the pallets, took a look inside, and saw something extraordinarily suspicious. Within the boxes, officials discovered 540 packages of cocaine hidden among the bundles of bananas. Police list the value of the drugs at almost $18 million. The donation came from the Port of America in Freeport, Texas, according to the department, though it's unclear who or when the cocaine entered the shipment. There are several federal entities that are investigating, and it's a pretty significant fine for them, said Diesel. The DEA and U.S. Customs and Border Protection are continuing to investigate, the Texas Department said. Our correctional officers and supervisory correctional officers are trained to notice things out of place that don't seem quite right, said Diesel. They're doing their jobs not just on our units, but somewhere else, and they found something good today. This isn't the first time drug smugglers have tried to use fruit to hide contraband. In 2017, almost 2 tons of marijuana was disguised as limes in a commercial shipment coming from across the Texas-Mexico border. More than 34,000 of the fake fruit packages were discovered by an imaging inspection system and narcotics canine team. The drugs were valued at approximately $789,467, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection statement. 2 years ago, 2,493 pounds of marijuana were concealed in carrot-shaped packaging entering from Mexico. So, case in point, don't hide your drugs and try to put them in fruit, because if they get sent to the wrong place, well, there goes your drugs. So, anyway, the next one I want to read for you is kind of a fun one I found yesterday. Comes out of Florida. Florida Chick-fil-A throws surprise 100th birthday party for loyal customer. When one Florida man turned 100, staffers at his favorite local Chick-fil-A took it upon themselves to go all out for a surprise birthday celebration. On September 21st, Stephen Bellissimo visited the chicken-centric chain in Oldsmar as in his weekly ritual, and was shocked to find that the restaurant full of family, friends, and decorations on his milestone birthday. Oh, I think it's just one great surprise for me. I didn't expect anything like this, the centurion told Fox 13. of the festivities in his honor. According to the outlet, Bellissimo has been frequenting the same Chick-fil-A, which is roughly 6 miles outside Tampa, on a near daily basis for the last 20 years. Known for eating at the same booth virtually every day, ordering almost the same thing, and staying for several hours, Bellissimo is a beloved regular, affectionately known as Mr. Steve. Suffering a fall last year, he has since moved in with his son and visits the Oldsmar location once weekly, Fox 13 reports. As his 100th birthday drew near, Chick-fil-A was a natural place to celebrate. He makes everyone here feel loved and welcome, Brittany Kraft, marketing director for Chick-fil-A, said in footage obtained by Fox 13. At the event, Bellissimo was awarded an inevitable gift: free Chick-fil-A for life. "This is the best gift I could ever receive. Thank you very much," the birthday boy said with a laugh when he heard the news. "Can I get my same booth? I can't believe it," he mused with a big smile. "Instead of coming once a week now, I'm coming every day." Footage of Bellissimo's sweet birthday celebrations has since gone viral on Facebook with over 243,000 views and pulled the heartstrings of many. That's a beautiful story. And they also have a video on here. You're welcome to take a look at that. Both of those are on, the stories I read are on msn.com. So you can, and I'll have the links for those posted also in the description here on my video. So right now I think we'll take ourselves a little break and we'll come back and we'll begin the show. Tonight we'll be talking about shadow people, as I said before. So I'm Glen Clark, and this is Stories of the Dark. And welcome back to Stories of the Dark. I am your host, Glen Clark, and tonight we are talking about shadow people. And just a kind of a little promotion, as I talked about last night, and I'll talk about in shows in the future. For Halloween, I am planning a nice big Halloween show. So, in fact, we'll probably change the name of the show up a little bit just for fun, for a little bit of fun. So what I'm needing is some of your best, scariest, I don't care if they're real or not, ghost stories. You can email them to me at storiesofthedark1@gmail.com. That's storiesofthedark1@gmail.com, and I'll look through those and read them on the show. And maybe we'll even be set up a little more where I can take some Skype calls, and you can share your stories with me. I'm going to try to do a live program that night, so we'll see how that goes. So, to start tonight's program, shadow people. Personally, I've never seen a shadow person. I've never really talked to anyone who has. But it is a fairly interesting subject. A lot of people claim that shadow people are ghosts, or could be people from another dimension that somehow slip into our world. I mean, there's all kind of, and a lot of times skeptics will even say that it's just our minds that play tricks on us if we're tired or whatever. So anyway, it's anybody's guess on that. In fact, I welcome your comments, skeptics or not. You can comment on any one of my shows, and you know, even if it is comments of criticism, I don't mind. I still read them. Everybody's opinion counts as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, the first thing I'm going to read from you comes from thoughtco.com. It's called Explanations for the Shadow People Phenomenon. Sorry, my tongue got a little tied up there. Is it just our mind playing tricks on us, or something more? There's a growing interest in the phenomenon of shadow people. What are they? Ghosts? Interdimensional beings? Time travelers? Something else? What was that? You were reading, sitting comfortably on your sofa in the dim light, when some movement across the room caught your attention. It seemed dark and shadowy, but there was nothing there. You returned to your reading, and a moment later, there it was again. You looked up quickly this time and saw the fleeting but distinctively human shape of the shadow pass quickly over the far wall and disappear. Was it a natural shadow, your heightened imagination, or a ghost? Maybe it was something that seems to be a spreading phenomenon. Apparitions that are coming to be known as shadow people or shadow beings. Perhaps this is an old phenomenon with a new name that is now being discussed more openly, in part thanks to the internet. Or maybe it's a phenomenon that for some reason is manifesting with greater frequency and intensity now. Those who are experiencing and studying the shadow people phenomenon say that these entities almost always used to be seen out of the corner of the eye and very briefly, but more and more people are beginning to see them straight on and for longer periods of time. Some experiencers testify that they have even seen eyes, usually red, on these shadow beings. Red eyes is not a good thing. The mysterious sightings have become a hot topic of conversation in paranormal chat rooms, message boards, and websites. It has even given widespread attention on paranormal talk radio. Several theories have been offered as to what shadow people are and where they come from. The explanation we get from skeptics and mainstream science, and who are usually people who have never experienced the shadow people phenomenon, is that it's nothing more than the active human imagination. It's our minds playing tricks on us, our eyes seeing things that in a fraction of a second that isn't really there. Illusions, real shadows caused by passing autolights or in some similar explanation, and without a doubt, these explanations probably can account for some, if not many, experiences. The human eye and mind are very easily fooled, but can they account for all the cases? To call these entities ghosts, now we go to a section where they talk about ghosts. To call these entities ghosts demands first a definition of what we mean by ghosts. But by almost any definition, shadow people are somewhat different than ghost phenomena. Whereas ghost apparitions are almost always a misty white vapor-like or having a decidedly human form and appearance, very often with discernible clothing, shadow beings are much darker and much more shadow-like. In general, although the shadow people do not have a human outline or shape because they are dark, the details of their appearance is lacking. This is in contrast to many ghost sightings in which the witness can describe the ghost facial features, style of clothing, and other details. The one detail almost often noted in shadow being sightings are their glowing red eyes. Demons or other spirit entities. The dark countenance and malevolent feelings that are often reported in association with these creatures have led some researchers to speculate that they may be demonic in nature. If they are demons, we have to wonder what their purpose or intent is in letting themselves be seen in this manner. Is it merely to frighten? Astral bodies. One theory suggests that the shadow people are the shadows or essences of people who are having out-of-body experiences. According to Jerry Gross, an author, lecturer, and teacher of astral travel, we all travel out of the body when we are asleep. Perhaps this theory says we are seeing the ephemeral astral bodies of these twilight travelers. Time travelers. Another theory is that people from the future could have found the means to travel to the past, our time. However, they are able to accomplish this incredible feat, perhaps in that state. They appear to us merely as passing shadows as they observe the events of our timeline. Interdimensional beings. Even mainstream science is fairly convinced that there are dimensions other than the three we inhabit. If these other dimensions exist, who or what, if anything, inhabits them? Some theories say that these dimensions exist parallel and very close to our own, although invisible to us, and if there are inhabitants in these other dimensions, it is possible that they have found a way to intrude on our dimension and become at least partially visible. If so, they could very well appear as shadows. It has long been held by psychics and other sensitives that beings on the other planes of existence are of different vibrations. Science is beginning to look at reality on a quantum level in the same way, that particles of the smallest size exist as vibrations. Perhaps some theorize the vibrations of our existence are beginning to mesh with those of another dimension, which accounts for the increase in such phenomena as ghosts, shadow people, and possibly aliens. The alien and abduction phenomena are so bizarre that it is no surprise that extraterrestrials are suspect as the shadow people. Abductees have reported in many cases that the alien greys seem to be able to pass through walls and closed windows and to appear and disappear abruptly. Among other worldly talents, perhaps too, they can go about their alien agenda disguised in the shadows. There's a good deal of overlapping among the above ideas, of course. Aliens and ghosts could be interdimensional beings, or aliens could be time travelers, and some believe demons are responsible for all of these disturbing phenomena. Simply a mystery. There is no way to prove or disprove any theories about the phenomenon that is so mysterious, that happens so quickly and without warning. Science finds it virtually impossible to catalog or study such phenomena in a methodical way. All we can do at present is to document personal experiences and try to piece together what the shadow people phenomena might be. Perhaps it is an old mystery becoming more recognizable. Perhaps it represents a doorway to and from different planes of existence. Or perhaps they are just shadows. And that came from thoughtco.com. Reading this, that's the first I've heard of them talking about it possibly being aliens or even demons. But as I said, anything is possible. So I welcome you to comment on that, like I said, in the comment section. Right now I'm going to play a video from YouTube. It's called The Types of Shadow People That Haunt the Dark. And it comes from Pararational. So, as always, you're welcome to take a look at their work and also like and subscribe on mine. I'd certainly appreciate it. I'll play this for you and I'll come back and we'll talk a little more. I'm Glen Clark and this is Stories of the Dark.
Welcome to Pararational.com, where today we'll be checking out several types of shadow people and some of their traits. A good bit of confusion exists over just what a shadow person is and how to define them. It is obvious that there are several types of shadow people, all with different sources and motives. Shadow people are a pariah to our darkest fears. Anyone can imagine waking in the middle of the night only to see in their sleepy haze a shape standing in the dark doorway of their room. A shape that is darker than the surrounding night. A shape that seems malevolent, standing and watching you as you sleep. Can you imagine the thoughts that would go through your head? What is it? Where did it come from? What does it want? How long has it been there? In this video, we will look at some of the basic information that is common to all shadow people, what motivates them, and what they want from us. Basic definition of shadow people. Before we delve into the types of shadow people, we should go over the commonalities of the entities that fall under the category of shadow people. Some common features are a shape that is generally male in appearance. They are aware of us and react to our observing them. The typical shadow person is tall, ranging from about 6 to 7 feet. Very often they seem to be wrapped in a cloak or large old-fashioned coat. Hats are not uncommon. Their appearance seems to have depth to it, unlike a shadow cast on a wall that is flat. Quite typically they have no visible eyes, but some will have glowing red eyes. Shadow people are rarely reported to have spoken or tried to communicate. Physical objects seem not to matter to them, and they can walk through walls. And of course, some can have a demonic shape or demeanor. This list encompasses the bulk of the entries that fall under the very broad heading of shadow people. Because the classifications of shadow people is so large, their motivations are fairly wide-ranging. Oftentimes, the apparent motivation of shadow people is tied to their source, lurking shadow people. Generally found in homes and very often around bedrooms, the classic shadow people tend to be lurking. They will stand in doorways or corners and just watch their victims. These types of shadow entities don't generally seem to have any obvious intent. They are just observing. Sometimes they will wander a location, following people or stalking them. Quite often they flee at being noticed, vanishing around corners or simply by going through a solid wall. Typically, these are classic human-shaped shadows, sometimes with a hat and oftentimes with a cloak or large coat. Less common is a vague figure, more like a human with a cloth over them. Encounters with this class of shadow people typically install a sense of dread or foreboding. Whether this is part of our instinctive reaction to seeing something dark in the night, or if they actually exude a sense of fear around them, is undetermined. Some seem to be just observing us with unspoken intent. This class of shadow people seems primarily attached to an individual and have been known to follow people from one location to the next. Caution should definitely be used with any of these entities, as a neutral and intent shadow person may actually be a hostile one, waiting for an opening. On to dangerous or aggressive shadow people. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that some shadow people fitting the classic description are, in fact, malevolent. This is why I think all shadow entities should be treated with a high level of caution. Even if a shadow person is not initially hostile, it may just be a ploy. Considering that we are dealing with entities that may have a much different perception of time than we do, they are very capable of waiting for humans to break down or have a weak moment, giving them an opportunity to act on us. If you experience a persistent shadow person, use significant levels of caution. The next type of shadow person are the visitors or transient shadow people. These seem to be a class of shadow people that are less interested in what we are doing, but have their own agenda. They are seen typically going from one place to another, and are not particularly interested in the goings-on of those that observe them. Obviously, of all the types of shadow people, these are the least understood, as they do not linger or interact with us. Shadow figures as omens. Some sightings of shadow people appear to be omens or portents of something bad happening, much like the legends of seeing a bar guest or hellhound, a portent of death. Similarly to lurking shadow people, these entities are generally associated with just one person and are more transitory occurrence, stopping after the event or tragedy has taken place. Haunting shadow figures. The last main class of shadow people are those tied to a location and seem to haunt only that area. Several types of shadow people make up this large group, and their motivations vary considerably depending on the type of shadow person. In general, though, those that haunt a location tend to be more malevolent and dangerous to encounter. They are less likely to flee when spotted, and may actually choose to attack instead. In my estimation, the least malevolent of this class are simply spirits that are negative in nature. At the extreme other end of the spectrum are the worst of the shadow people, the demonic shadow creatures. What they want is usually to express their emotions on us. For weaker ones, this could be scratches and sick feelings. Stronger entities are capable of full-on possessions, throwing objects, or shoving people. If you happen to decide to investigate an area with a known, repeating shadow entity, please use extreme caution. 4 main types of shadow people. Now that we've explored their motivations and where you may encounter them, we need to talk about the main types of shadow people. There seems to be some relationship to the shape or form of the shadow person and where they are found and what their intent is. The more common human-shaped shadow people. These make up the bulk of the shadow people sightings and include the typical cloaked figure and shadow people wearing hats. These can come in a variety of combinations. Obviously, what these shadow people are is pure speculation at this point in time. The persistent shadow people of the lurking variety don't generally seem to be purely evil in intent, and almost seem more interested in us, or at least in feeding off our energy. Others are simply negative manifestations of spirits. Almost universally, though, they are a sign of something negative. Black mass shadow people. Less human in form, but still of that generalized size and black mass type of shadow. Less human in form, but still of that general size, the black mass type of shadow people give the impression of being a human figure, but of more fuzzy and blurred. They can change in shape, forming more of a cloud, but the impression is always that of an entity being there. It is my assertion that many of these black mass shadow peoples are former negative spirits that have begun growing in power and are losing their human identity. As they absorb more and more negative emotion, their sense of being human and who they are fades and becomes distorted. In the end, they become a form of the following type of shadow people: demonic. Demonic shadow people with red eyes. Definitely the most dangerous type of shadow people, demonic shadows, should be avoided at all costs. Among shadow people, these are one of the few types that can sometimes see the eyes of. Many accounts of them talk of glowing red eyes, which is a particularly bad sign. Demonic forms vary widely, but usually retain a humanoid shape, but are often exaggerated in height, have wings or horns or elongated fingers. They do not give the impression of being a normal human ghost or sentient entity. Luckily, these demonic shadow people are typically tied to one location. There are yet more forms that fall into the shadow people categories that are harder to classify. One that is more common is the old hag shadow person. Other, less common reports of shadow people that are non-human but seem more alien than demonic in nature. In fact, there is likely a class of shadow people that actually are aliens but simply present to us as shadowy forms as they interact with us. Final thoughts on shadow people. Obviously, all shadow people are nothing to take lightly. They can appear for what seems like no reason and start meddling with our lives in less than pleasant ways. If you're experiencing one and cannot get rid of it, I highly suggest contacting a professional and enlisting their assistance in ridding yourself of these entities if at all possible. Have you had or are you encountering shadow people? If so, please write in at Pararational.com and let us know about it. We would love to share your experience with the world so that others will know that they aren't alone in their encounters and that we can get a better grip on what these shadow people want. Thanks for watching, and if you like what we're doing, follow our channel, and of course check us out at Pararational.com for more things that defy the rational explanation.
And we're back, and also if you have a shadow person story and would like to share it with me, you can email that to me at storiesofthedark1@gmail.com. That's storiesofthedark1@gmail.com, and I'll look it over, and then maybe we'll share it on a future program. So anyway, I think we'll go ahead and take a little break and play some music, and we'll come back and I'll read some more from the websites I have, and play. I have a couple more videos I want to share. So I'm Glen Clark, and this is Stories of the Dark. Welcome back to Stories of the Dark. I am Glen Clark, and we are talking about shadow people. And just some upcoming show notes for you. I'm going to be doing one on probably tomorrow night on black-eyed children, or black-eyed kids, whichever you like to call them. Probably, and then after that I'm going to be doing a show on phone calls from the dead. which I've never had one. If you have, you're welcome to share that with me. Also, I'm going to be doing a upcoming show on witches. So, in all of those, if you have any suggestions or stories you'd like to share, don't hesitate to email me. You can email me anytime at storiesofthedark1@gmail.com, and we'll have my email also on the description part of the video. You can also follow me, as always, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So and thank you to all the new followers I've gotten recently. I really appreciate it. And, it's because of you that I'm doing this program. So anyway, I want to share another YouTube video for you. It's comes from The Truth Can Change Your Life. It's called Shadow People Phenomenon. What are they? Interdimensional beings, time travelers, or something else? I'll play this and we'll come right back. I'm Glen Clark. This is Stories of the Dark.
Shadow people phenomenon. Just our mind playing tricks on us or something more? There's a growing interest in the phenomenon of shadow people. What are they? Ghosts? Interdimensional beings? Time travelers? Something else? What was that? You were sitting comfortably on your sofa reading the latest issue of Fate in the dim light when movement across the room caught your attention. It seemed dark and shadowy, but there was nothing there. You returned to your reading, and a moment later there it was again. You looked up quickly this time and saw the fleeting but distinctly human shape of the shadow pass quickly over the far wall and disappear. What was that? Some natural shadow? Your heightened imagination? A ghost? Or was it something that seems to be a spreading phenomenon, apparitions that are coming to be known as shadow people or shadow beings? Perhaps this is an old phenomenon with a new name that is now being discussed more openly, in part thanks to the internet. Or maybe it's a phenomenon that, for some reason, is manifesting with greater frequency and intensity now. Those who are experiencing and studying the shadow people phenomenon say that these entities almost always used to be seen out of the corner of the eye and very briefly, but more and more people are beginning to see them straight on and for longer periods of time. Some experiencers testify that they have even seen eyes, usually red, on these shadow beings. The mysterious sightings have become a hot topic of conversation in paranormal chat rooms, message boards and websites, and it is given widespread attention on paranormal talk radio. What are shadow people and where do they come from? Several theories have been offered. The imagination. The explanation we get from skeptics and mainstream science, and who are usually people who have never experienced the shadow people phenomenon, is that it is nothing more than the active human imagination. It's our minds playing tricks on us. Our eyes seeing things in a fraction of a second that aren't really there, illusions. Real shadows caused by passing auto headlights, or some similar explanation. And without a doubt, these explanations probably can account for some if not many experiences. The human eye and mind are easily fooled. But can they account for all cases? Ghosts. To call these entities ghosts demands first a definition of what we mean by ghosts. But by almost any definition, shadow people are somewhat different than ghost phenomena. Whereas ghost apparitions are almost always a misty white, vapor-like or have a decidedly human form and appearance, very often with discernible clothing, shadow beings are much darker and more shadow-like. In general, although the shadow people often do have a human outline or shape, because they are dark, the details of their appearance is lacking. This is in contrast to many ghost sightings in which the witness can describe the ghost's facial features, style of clothing and other details. The one detail most often noted in some shadow being sightings are their glowing red eyes. Demons or other spirit entities. The dark countenance and malevolent feelings that are often reported in association with these creatures has led some researchers to speculate that they may be demonic in nature. If they are demons, we have to wonder what their purpose or intent is in letting themselves be seen in this manner. Is it merely to frighten? Astral bodies. One theory suggests that shadow people are the shadows or essences of people who are having out-of-body experiences. According to Jerry Gross, an author, lecturer, and teacher of astral travel, we all travel out of the body when we are asleep. Perhaps, this theory says, we are seeing the ephemeral astral bodies of these twilight travelers. Time travelers. Another theory is that people from the future could have found the means to travel.
And welcome back to Stories of the Dark. I am Glen Clark, and listening to that video, I do have to apologize. It comes from exactly what I read at the start of the show, so we'll go ahead and we'll skip that, just so we don't have to hear it a second time. I'd like to read now from thoughtco.com. It's got some stories of people that have actually wrote in and talked about shadow people. So I'll go ahead and read a couple of those for you. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to go through some of these. You know what I think I'll do? I'll take a break and play some music while I read through these, and come back and see what we can come up with. So I'm Glen Clark, and this is my computer's being a little weird on me here. I'm Glen Clark, and this is Stories of the Dark. And welcome back to Stories of the Dark. I am Glen Clark, and I apologize for that last video. I was unaware that it was actually something I had already read about. So I was going to read some stories from thoughtco.com, but for some reason the stories don't want to come up. So if you'd like to check that out, you're welcome to go to that website. I'll have it posted on the description here on the video. I want to go ahead and play one last video for you. It's from, we all know, Stephen Hawking. He talks a little bit about shadow people in this one. And after that, we'll go ahead and we'll wrap up the program. So I'm just trying to get it queued up here. So I'll play this and I'll come right back. I'm Glen Clark. This is Stories of the Dark.
Always traveling through other dimensions, but it now seems that other dimensions may be science fact rather than science fiction. We now have reason to believe that space-time may have more than the 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time that we experience.
If there are more dimensions, why can't we move in them as we can in the 3 spatial dimensions that we know exist and the 4th dimension of time?
Why don't we see these extra dimensions? Why can't we move in more directions than forwards or backwards, sideways, and up or down? The answer may be that we live in a brain world. Here brain is spelled B-R-A-N-E. It means a membrane or surface in a larger space. Brains are the brainchild of my colleague, Paul Townsend, at Cambridge. The idea is that matter and light would be confined to the brain. Thus we could not travel through, or even see, the extra dimensions. However, we would feel them, because gravity would spread through the extra dimensions, from shadow brains that we cannot see. There could be shadow galaxies, shadow stars, and even shadow people who might wonder about the gravity they feel from matter on our brain. To us, such shadow objects would appear to be dark matter, matter that can't be seen, but whose gravity can be felt.
Can you give us an idea of how this brain world would work?
The formation of a brain world would be like the appearance of bubbles of steam in boiling water. Fluctuations in the vacuum would cause brain worlds to appear from nothing as bubbles. The brain would form the surface of the bubble, and the interior would be the higher dimensional space. Very small bubbles would tend to collapse again to nothing, but a bubble that grew by quantum fluctuations beyond a certain critical size would be likely to keep on growing. People, such as us, living on the brain, the surface of the bubble, would think the universe was expanding. It would be like painting galaxies on the surface of a balloon and blowing it up. The galaxies would move apart, but no galaxy would be picked out as the center of it.
And welcome back to Stories of the Dark. I am Glen Clark, and that was Stephen Hawking there talking about shadow people. I know he didn't mention much about that, but he did mention some, and that comes from a subscriber, Justin Case. So you go ahead and have a look at his videos as well, and go ahead and have a look at mine, and like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. I'll go ahead and wrap up the program. I've enjoyed doing this show on shadow people, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Once again, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm also on SoundCloud, PodOMatic, and Pinecast, and many more to come. All the thank yous, thank you to my followers, all the new ones, all the old ones. You're what makes this program a success. Also, as always, to BlakCircleGirl for all her work that she does on the program. You may not hear her on the air, but she's very much involved in the program, and I very much appreciate it, and probably couldn't do this show without her. So anyway, until our next edition, be safe, and as always, if you go out and do anything on your own, make sure you get permission. Just better that way. Alright, until our next edition, I'm Glen Clark. This is Stories of the Dark, and have a great night, everyone.